Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sun is Coming podcast. I'm here with Jaden.
Yes.
Welcome, and my co-host Kaleb.
Hello.
Glad you are all here on a beautiful fall day in Chicagoland.
Absolutely.
It feels very nice here.
It does.
Jaden, you said earlier you're a runner.
I am a runner.
Is this like your favorite season to run outside?
Yeah. This or like spring.
Yeah.
But I think fall is a little bit nicer. I love fall weather.
Yeah.
70 degrees or even like chillier than that.
Yeah, dude.
Because then it's like, you run in July or August and it's like, too hot.
Totally. To get up real early.
But so.
Beat that heat.
Do you run, what is the time of day that you prefer running?
Typically morning.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, especially if I'm not working, like I won't run before work. I'm just like, I'm not going to get up that early.
Yeah.
I'm not that dedicated to it, but yeah. So
I used to run at night a lot, and it would be like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out for a couple miles. And this was when I was living up in McHenry, and we lived in like this unincorporated neighborhood. There was no sidewalks. It was just like, run on the street or whatever. And I used to have this, it was, I don't know, 1.5 mile, 2 mile little section that I would run every night. And I kept running into like animals that would like cross like in front of me, like giant raccoons that would like run right out in front of me. And like there was a skunk one time that ran right in front of me. And I was very nervous of getting sprayed. And I ran very, very fast to get away from it. And then I was like, I don't think I like running at night anymore. So
and eventually you're like, I don't think.
And then I was like, I don't like
running.
running at all, actually. But yeah, running at night, man, it's funny.
Amazing.
yeah. Did you have like the headlamp and all that
I
stuff?
didn't.
No?
I would not call myself a runner. I was doing it in a season where I wanted to be healthier, and maybe I'm not that anymore. But and I would like not wear any of the things that a normal runner at night should wear. Like I would wear like black
hoodies and jeans.
Typical production guy running.
You go to the gym.
Vans,
and
jeans.
You're like, dude, you're like dressed for the street. Like, why are you hitting the gym?
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. But even working out too, I would go at like midnight to the gym. And that was just like my
also
time.
in your Vans and your jeans and your
Sometimes, and
Isn't
what's
that
really
like the
funny,
best time to go though? Is at night, because then it's like if you go at like 6 p.m., everybody's there.
Everybody's
if you go
there.
in the morning, it's
and then there are the gym bros that are there in the morning. So we would go at night, and then I would go with a buddy of mine. And what's terrible is there was a Buffalo Wild Wings
there you go.
right across the street from the gym in McHenry, and we'd be like,
There's a Buffalo Wild Wings in McHenry?
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, right next to the Planet Fitness. Yeah,
you work out, you get your protein hits.
Yeah, there you go.
It all
works.
back, and I was like, it evened itself out. It's fine.
That's right.
Bring them back, hang out, play some darts, stuff like that.
Amazing.
But yeah, so that's my not working out story anymore.
Yeah.
But that's funny, dude.
Yeah.
Well, all of that to get back to Jaden.
Yeah.
We're super excited that you're here. One of the cool things that we have the opportunity to be a part of here in the Chicagoland area is like just a community of Chicago technical directors and production directors and audio people and whatnot, and you've been a big part of that community, been a part of our mixed competitions and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love, before we dive into some more of the weeds, just give us a quick overview of like who you are, what's your story, like how did you, what first got you plugged into the church, and then we'll dig into a little bit more the production side of things and how that ended up looking, how it does now.
Yeah, so I'm Jaden, as they already introduced me. So 23 years old, and I got into tech when I was like 15 years old at my old church that I grew up in. So I went to basically this is like side note, my parents used to go to Quinton Road. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
But
Lake Zurich, yeah.
Yep, then they left that.
The one with the billboards of
With
Christmas
the pastor's
shows.
name engraved on it, yeah.
Yep.
So they had a lot of church hurt from that. I don't know how much you guys are gonna like splice out or whatever. But
none.
okay,
So-
there we go. It's all unfiltered.
Great.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great.
fine.
And we can cut it if you
space.
need it.
Yeah. So they left there, and then my dad got plugged in with a church called Faith Church in Grays Lake. I live in Grays Lake, so we went there. Basically, that's where I grew up. So I went to youth group there, met all my friends there, and then
I graduated from high school in that church.
no way.
Actually, yeah. They used to host, maybe they still do, like high school
Interesting.
graduations.
Okay.
Like on
At
Friday
Faith?
nights.
No way. Okay.
Anyway, small
Cool.
world.
Yeah. So then I think I played saxophone in like junior high and middle school. So, but that like didn't actually ever intrigue my music like interest. Like I wouldn't say like even while I was playing, I was never like, this is something I want to do. But then, I got invited to like, I don't know, a tech like event, not event, but like someone invited me to like, while we were going through a merger at Faith with another church called Torch, there was a like merge happening, and someone was like, hey, like Jaden, I know you've like done a little bit of tech stuff in the past, because I would do like the video switching for like the TVs out in the lobby, but it was like the worst like setup ever with like legit like TVs that were like this CRT, small and like giant. And I was like, and I don't even know how I got even plugged into it, but then someone invited me to like shadow on like a Thursday night rehearsal for audio stuff. And there were like a few guys there that were like super like invested in like audio. And I was like, I don't even understand it. And they're like explaining things. I'm like, this is crazy. I think it was just at the time I was like, I just want to like hang out with people and like, I don't know, just figure out what I like doing, or just even something in general that is like kind of cool. So my interest from me being 15 to then like growing in audio, and then like essentially just starting out by unmuting, muting things. And yeah, so that's just kind of how I started out. And then I'm here now. So,
what church are you at now, and what's the role that you're in?
Yep, I'm at the chapel, and my role is technical directing. So a lot of that focus is on audio. So like audio across basically 9 campuses, but typically we have 2 broadcast campuses that we flip-flop between, which is a little interesting for like most churches where they have one like push site that goes out to all, they're streaming, or if they have multi-site campuses as well. So
that's cool.
But yeah.
Well, one of the insights I think we can talk more about, I think you'll have some cool just thoughts around. It's like one of the things that comes up in this conversation around this table oftentimes when we're talking to different church leaders and things is just the importance of investing in the people around you, investing in your team. Like you said, someone just invited you along. Said, hey, come to this event, check it out, see what you think, and then made space for you to have an opportunity to do that. So hearing from your perspective more about like, what did that look like for you as a young person interested in technology and stepping into a role in your church to have the skills and the opportunity and the training and the space to fail to actually grow your skills? Because the cool thing is now that whatever that process looked like, it landed with you being on staff at a church, with you being a very competent and successful audio engineer. I mean, in our mixed comp, you're now the 3-time winner. So probably have won our Chicago regional mixed competition more than anybody else.
I think that's right.
I think Dolsky probably has beat me a few times with his.
I don't know. It would be really close, maybe tied. But,
so in any case, you've done very well.
Thanks.
So we honestly, whenever we do a mix-up, we have to think, what prizes did Jaden win last time?
We literally did.
Just in case he wins again, he doesn't get the same thing over again. But that didn't just happen overnight. Like there was a long journey that you went on to get there. So rewinding back to when you had first started out at Faith, like what did it look like in just even the kind of environment of the team that you were being invited onto that gave you space to try things, learn things, and how did that all go?
I think it was a culture of like people that were invested. Like Torch was a like portable church, so they met at Regal Theater in Round Lake Beach, I think. So they were like, people were committed to like go and set up early. Like they would get there at like 5 a.m. to set up in a movie theater, and that's just like crazy. So that, I think, transpired when you have people that are hungry for that and like want to be plugged in and want to do the thing, then you cultivate a culture of people that also want to be there, and like they see, oh, their leaders are like getting there early and being prepared and like doing all the stuff and like troubleshooting, and they're serving with excellence. And then you see that as like a young kid, or like even just a regular person, like seeing what the tech team even is. And then you're like interested in it. So then you want to try to pursue it and see like, what can you get out of it? So, and I think like, honestly, serving like for me is like a big part of just like time, like just spending time with Jesus, and like even like investing in a team, and like being able to grow in that, and like seeing people that are like, you don't like, you might not know tech, but we can like train you on how to do it, you know? So.
Yeah. What were some of the things as you started out that, I don't know, maybe you encountered as like challenges or roadblocks or, sticky moments as you're just, feeling it out? And also, why audio in the end? Because you said you didn't really know anything about audio,
Yeah.
and there's other things going on. Like, how did that all go? Did you try other things? And I don't know. Just
I think audio was the primary thing. And yeah, I mean, I think it was like the Lord being like, Jaden, this is like what I want you to do. And it was like, I'm like, okay, like back then I didn't know that. But like today I'm like, oh, like, because all of the doors were like open, I just was like seeing what I could do. I think the big thing though that put me in a space where I really love doing live audio engineering was there was like a video I watched of, you guys know Big Mick, the guy that like mixes Metallica. It was one of his videos about like his big fat snare drum and me being like, I don't know enough about drums to like do this, but it was his passion that I was like, oh, like this guy is invested in it and he's like, talking about stuff. I'm like, I don't really know, but it was the interest in that of like, what is he doing that I can pull, like take away from? So I think at the end of the day, it was just like being consistent in it and being like, well, actually, I think the big thing was I am a person who like, I want like positive feedback. And at the time when I was doing audio, there were people like strengthening me, but like encouraging me and being like, hey, like, I felt like this was like in my mix was like too much or like the volume was too loud or whatever. And like as a person that wants like good feedback, I'm like, okay, I'll like change what I'm doing to like help support these people and what they want and their vision for it. So
they it's interesting too. I mean, you've already said it, but like the age gap and I don't know what the prime like entry time is for a, let's say, middle schooler or something like that, 12 to 15 years old, jumping in to get plugged into a church because, we've said this on with different guests. It was the case for myself. I was probably sixth grade. So what is that? 11 years old, 12 years old.
When you first got
when
into tech,
when a volunteer audio guy at our church, Adam Whitson, was like, hey man, would you like, I can't be here today. Can you like learn with me for the next like hour before I have to leave and then just do it? I'm like, yeah, sure.
That same thing happened with me. Same thing.
Because I think there's this like, maybe it's just the age, like you don't understand the fear of like screwing it up yet. You're like, like what could go wrong? How hard could it be? And whether it sounded good or not is irrelevant. It was just like, at the time, a warm body for me that I could do that. But I also like really enjoyed it. But because of that person going, hey man, could you like jump back here with me and do this on a Sunday morning? Led to, 20 years later, me still doing that same thing in the local church context and loving mixing and audio. And because somebody goes, hey, I'll take a chance on you doing that. And knowing that space like impacted my life for way longer than I would have ever, imagined that being the case. And so I love seeing that from a guy like you and so many like different, connections that we've had. And I worked at the chapel prior to you, coming on staff. And so seeing all of that and coming from another local church in that area to be able to see where you're at now, I think is awesome. And very, very cool. When you were like first starting, like what age do you think that was when you like, they first kind of called you into doing that at the church?
I think probably 15. I was probably like 15 years old. Yeah. So just a little older than you were.
How long had, because the whole musician thing too with this is really interesting. And for those of you who are listening that like aren't necessarily a production person, this is maybe a little more heavy towards that. But I think there's so many similarities to what that looks like in any seat in ministry. And not only just the age that you are that's coming into it, but the calling of what that looks like and calling other people in your life up to, do a role like that. But when you were a musician, did that start beforehand? Were you playing sax and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think I started playing saxophone probably fifth grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So like first year of like junior high.
Yeah.
So
I love saxophone, man.
Yeah.
Bill Murray.
It's having a resurgence.
Dude, it's got a big resurgence.
Has a saxophone feature on one of their albums.
I'm telling you what, man. It is the coolest thing.
It is cool.
Ever.
I played alto and then I played tenor for 2 years and then 1 year in middle school.
Dude.
Or I guess, 2 years total. Yeah.
It is.
So.
It is.
Do you still play?
No,
I've been.
I don't think I could. Like, I honestly would love to like try. Yeah. Like, what's funny is I still have like some of the reeds that I had from like my old saxophone in like my junk drawer in my room. I'm like, I would love to like pick up a saxophone and see if I can even play like just hot cross buns or something like that. But like, it's like the mouth technique and all that stuff of like, I don't know if I could do it.
So interesting. I never played a brass instrument and like was never in like band or anything like that to play that sort of thing. And I always want, like, if I would have chosen one, it would have been
saxophone.
Yeah, dude.
I think it was between saxophone and clarinet, but I'm glad I went with saxophone.
Yeah, much better choice.
Yeah.
My daughter literally, like, we're just now having this conversation with like band starting at school. She's like, I got picked to play the clarinet. And I was like, oh,
wait, she got picked? Doesn't she pick what she wants
She put
to play?
what she wanted to play in there, and then they were like, oh, we already have this one filled, so we're going to put you on this. And I was like, gosh dang it. I don't want you to play clarinet. I said, you're going to be like Squidward.
Yeah.
She's like, that's what he plays. So anyways, but anyways, do you feel like you're learning that? Because I would say so many audio guys, at least for myself, maybe it didn't start from the musician side in like playing brass or normal like band instrument in high school or middle school or something like that. But from, I played piano, I played guitar, I played drums, I played, something like that.
Sure, that's because you were in the worship team and then got recruited to.
Also that, yes.
They didn't pull you up onto the worship team with your saxophone?
No, they did not.
I'm gathering
no.
here?
They did not.
They're missing out.
They are. Hey, we have a saxophone player at the chapel that plays every so often. He's pretty good.
Nice.
I'm telling you, it's making a resurgence, man. If you haven't
brings
listened
his
to Bill Murray,
soprano, his alto, everything. I'm like, dude, this guy's got everything. He just brings it in.
So we went to in July to see Ben Rector at the Salt Shed in Chicago, and it's so funny because he tells a story of their sax player who's on tour with him now, and a couple years prior, this kid who was like in high school had basically sent Ben Rector on Instagram a video message of him playing sax to one of his songs. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then a couple months later when they were doing a record, he like DM'd him back. It was like, hey, do you want to be on the record with us?
Dude, that's crazy.
And he's like, yeah, I got to see if I can get out of school. And then is like, now they're like full-time touring dude. But like every time he played like some solo, I was like, yes, this is amazing.
That is cool.
So anyways, getting back to my original question, do you feel like that helped you stepping into anything in a music-related context at the church and mixing? Because it feels so different than the same, whether it's style and same joke we're saying, like, oh, I was playing guitar on the worship team before I got recruited to, mix. And so I wasn't sure how many similarities you had specifically in your life that helped or didn't, or maybe didn't make a difference at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably played a little bit of a role, like just even from, like the band director at the time, he's like orchestrating like, hey, tubas, like you need to be more pronounced in this part, and like tenors, make sure you're doing this. So like there was some like pieces where it actually almost like a little bit coincides with like mixing because you don't have, like, you can't push faders. You have to just tell like you play quieter, you play louder, or like, so, but yeah, that's like the hard thing is I don't know if it really pushed me into a spot where like I wanted to do audio. It was more so just like, okay, I'm kind of helping my church, and I have friends here.
So then like continue your story a little bit. You eventually transitioned from being just a volunteer at your church to being on staff at a church.
Yep.
So maybe walk us through a little bit there. Like, how did you figure out, hey, this is what I want to do for a job? Like, there's actually roles that I could get paid to do this in the church context, and also even just deciding, hey, I want to do this at a church, not tour or look at studio stuff or do audio in another context, but continue in that context at a church somewhere.
Yeah, so when I first got plugged in like on staff at a church was Fierce, my old church. And I was going to community college at the time, and I was planning on going away for like audio engineering at Columbia, Chicago, or Columbia School of Chicago. Yeah. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. But then I was just like, well, this was So it probably was like 2018, 2019 when I was like super plugged in. I wasn't on staff yet, and then COVID hit, and then everything basically blew up, obviously, as you guys know. And that I graduated high school in 2020. So that was like a weird graduation. And then I'm like, well, I might as well do community college because like, why would I take gen eds when I could just take them and spend way less money at community school? So did that. And then I think in that process was when I was part-time on staff at Fierce. And at the time I was like, oh, this is not like, I don't think I'm going to be working at a church full-time or like just in general. Like my vision is going away to school, doing audio. That was what I was really interested in. And actually, funny enough, one of my high school teachers, Steve Kaleb, I still talk to him every so often. He went to school for audio engineering. He was like my physics professor for 2 years. Okay. So I would literally hang out after class and just talk with him. And he was like, yeah, Columbia is a good school. Like you should go there, all that type of stuff. And I was like kind of invested like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And he goes to a church in Antioch called Northbridge. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of it. So like, I don't know, hearing his story and like, I was like, this is the thing I'm doing. And then like, as I'm going to school for just gen eds, at CLC, I'm just like, I don't know what I really want to do anymore. You know, like the thought was acoustical engineering. And then the other thought was like mechanical engineering. Like it was more so like a money thing. Like this, like I'm just going to be an engineer so I can make a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, I was just like, well, the thing that I really like doing is live audio. And like, how do I do that in a church setting or just like in general? Like, how am I going to do that? And like, Columbia is not a cheap school. Like I was looking at tuition and I'm like, I can't do this. So, and just, I didn't even think like processing with the Lord of like, where do I want to be? Like my parents are supportive of like my decision of like, this is the thing that I really am called to do. At first they weren't because like I actually got accepted in those like 2 years or 3 years, I think, of CLC. I got accepted into the engineering program at U of I, which is like not an easy thing to do.
Not at all.
And that was when I was plugged in at the chapel at the time. So sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here,
great.
but I left Fierce and then I started coming to the chapel. This is before I was on staff. I was like, oh, this is the place that I really want to like grow at and like be a part of this body. Like it was just the culture there was something that I was like, this is really cool. And there's something special about this place in particular. And that's when my parents started going there as well. So, but in that transition, like working, you know, part-time and then going to a church and then being like, okay, Lord, where do you want me to be? Like, what do you want me to do? He made it very apparent, like, this is what I want you to do. And it was kind of crazy because in this time of me getting this like offer letter of like, hey, you're accepted in the engineering program at U of I. Do you want to take it? And I'm like, there's a position opened up for a technical director at the chapel. And that's when Jesse like left. Yeah. And he moved away to Michigan. And I was like, Lord, if this is like something you really want me to do, like I'm just going to apply and see what happens. And I did, and I got it. And that's just kind of where I'm at now. Like, and I'm really grateful to like be a part of a culture and a church that like cares for its people well. And like, I think we serve the Lord with excellence. And yeah, it's been just a cool journey, kind of being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then now I'm like plugged in and, you know, so.
Yeah, that's awesome,
what
man.
year did you start attending the church?
The chapel was 2022, like October.
Okay, got it.
So.
Got it. I wasn't sure what our overlap was because I left in
Wasn't it 2019?
November of 2020.
2020, okay.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting because there was, and I'm trying to think, we had done some stuff with Faith. There's 3 different churches there. You're talking about Faith Church,
Torch of Faith. Yeah. Sorry.
And then what was the other one?
Fierce. So it's crazy. It was literally Faith and then Torch merge, and then they're like, we need to do a different name because it was Torch of Faith.
Yeah.
And then I was like, the name is fine. And then they changed it to Fierce. And I'm like,
That's right.
why?
Okay, that's what it was. Because I
So,
remember
yeah.
that
All
happening.
the
And I was like,
same
they
church.
changed their name
yeah,
again?
I know. It's crazy.
Hey, if anyone from Fierce Church is listening, we love you. It's
yes.
fine.
Well, I remember
Brandon Adkins.
Brandon, yeah. I met
Yeah.
Brandon doing something. I feel like there was some like, I don't know, technical problem that they were having some, I don't know, some week. And one of our leadership was like, hey, somebody from, this church called me. Would you just like mind like calling them and just seeing if there's anything that we have, sitting around the building that can
Oh,
help?
yeah. I think I remember that.
what it was.
I
but-
think we were trying to do like, it was during COVID, we were trying to do like a recorded night of worship, and we didn't have any camera gear that we could use. So we were
Yes.
going to go to the chapel,
Yes.
Grays Lake, record it there, and then, yeah.
Did you guys end up doing that?
No, I don't think we did.
Yeah, okay. That's so
Like,
funny.
yeah, this is too much
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Man,
It's a lot of
that is wild, dude. Yeah, that's that whole like that area of Chicagoland is also so funny to me. Like when we first moved from St. Louis to the very far northwest burbs of Chicago, like I was like, there is nothing out here but homes, and then just like single lane or 2-lane back roads going everywhere, and
Tons of churches.
Yeah, and I was like, where do all these people come from to
Yeah.
come to church here? This is just like wild.
Cornfields, and then you've got a church.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what did your transition look like from the church to the chapel? Because
yeah.
you were part-time.
Yep.
Got this offer to go to School of Engineering
Yep.
at U of I and stuff like that. Did you have other people who were working with you in the production side of things at the church you were at before?
No, so I honestly the how I like really found out about the chapel was like I knew about it, but I don't think I've ever even like attended before I like knew. But there was Brandon Downs put out like a group me thing to like a bunch of churches in the area because they needed a front of house guy at Grays Lake. And actually, no, hold on. This is what it was. So there was during COVID, we were looking at like how we were going to upgrade a lot of our like tech stuff at my old church. And Brandon Adkins was like, hey, let's like, Jaden, the chapel has a lot of the same gear. Like, how about you go there and shadow and like just see what they have. So that was like my first taste of it.
Unknowing that he was getting you into a church you'd go work at.
Yeah, basically. And it was kind of crazy because like I was at the Libertyville campus with Jesse, and that's when I met, Jesse, Brandon, and a few other people. And then in that I was like, oh, this is actually this is cool. Like I never really knew about the chapel beforehand. And then I see it and I'm like, oh, like, it just kind of intrigued my interest a little bit. I wasn't like, oh, that's where I'm going to be. But I was like, okay, that's cool. And then fast forward maybe like a month or two later was when they needed a front of house guy for Grays Lake. And that was when I was working on the Avantis at the time. So I knew like the Allen and Heath structure. I was just like, all right, let me do this. And then when I went to Grays Lake, I was like, oh, this is a cool experience. Like, sure, the tech was cool, but the culture was something like, it was very like Holy Spirit oriented. And that was like, oh, people like are hungry here. And that was something that kind of intrigued me a little bit more. And then in that I was like, oh, how would I like transition to like, not even work there, but like just attend the chapel. And I'm like so plugged in. I have my friends here and it felt weird to like, this like urge almost to go somewhere else.
Well, maybe talk a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of people can relate to a season of life where they're transitioning, whether it's in church to another church or one community to another community. Like, how'd you navigate that relationally? Like, what were some of the challenges, or just how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was like the people at my old church were supportive of like me checking it out, and I would like attend worship nights and stuff. At the chapel, knowing like, oh, this is a cool experience. These are cool tech guys. Like I was getting closer with Brandon and Jesse and some of the other like tech people. And it kind of reminded me like when I first started in tech, like the hunger of people wanting to like serve. So that kind of pushed me of like, oh, this is like almost like a fresh like beginning of like, there were things at my old church that I was like, there wasn't anything wrong, but I was like, I want to grow more. And I felt like I kind of capped it. Sure. And I'm like, where can I go now to like increase my knowledge, increase my learning, and like grow closer to like people and just in my craft essentially. Yeah. So being in that space and having people that were supportive of like, you know, this is like, hey, if you feel like the Lord is calling you there, like I don't want to hold you to anything else. Like I want you to like go wherever you feel like the Lord is asking you to go. Yeah, so
that's good.
And I think the chapel is, you know, I was there for almost 6 years, and I think there was so much margin that I had to be able to learn the things that I didn't know while I was there. That's one of the, I think the most helpful things that I had while I was on staff there was just the ability to spend time in the middle of my week to be able to focus on the things that I wanted to get better at, whether it was audio or systems or whatever the thing was. And there was a ton of different places to do that with all of our campuses kind of all around Chicagoland. And so getting thrown into the fire of like, hey, like, hope you can, kind of figure it all out, but then learn a ton through that season, I think was really helpful. And I saw, just about all the guys that we would hire on our team, have the same kind of experience of like, we're just kind of thrown in. I wouldn't call it the most affluent church, that we were at. I would describe us as very scrappy, I think, at the time. And just like, we would do the absolute best that we could with the resources that we had. And I actually think we did very well at that. Yeah. But it made you become a little bit of a MacGyver trying to figure out how to make some things work in the ways that maybe it wasn't designed to in that space and stuff like that. So I think that's awesome. And the same thing that you're describing of the worship culture that you walked into and being drawn to, that was the same thing that it was for me when I was interviewing back in 2014 before I came on staff, and going, I like what this is, and the emphasis into the worship culture. And we had Jeremiah on the podcast, and we got to talk a little bit about that too, and just like what he's built even since when he was there from the worship side of things. And being able to come alongside and support that. But as you were talking, I was thinking about like I know enough about your old church to know that there were some similarities and some cultural similarities, and like people that would kind of knew each other back and forth. What was like the biggest I don't know if it was shock, if that's the right word, but like the biggest, like, oh my gosh, like this is very different than where you were coming from before. Because like, I guess, what would you say you would have called yourself from an experience standpoint walking in then to the chapel at that point? Would you still feel like you were green in, your role and being like, I'm still figuring it out, and then jumping into, I would say, a much larger church context, like, how was that transition, and like jumping into it's very different when you're at a church, a multi-site church of that size and doing it at that scale, jumping in fairly young into your career. Yeah.
So you're asking like from old church to like new, like,
what was the biggest like differences and like shock as you like kind of jumped in?
Part-time production guy to, hey, I'm a TD at this multi-site church on a team, and like all this stuff, like how did that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just over I've been on staff for a little over 2 years now. So like in that, like it was like the learning curve of like, what is Resi? What is simulcast? Like, how do you check things? How do campuses check in? Like, I didn't even know anything about PCO Live until I came to the chapel. And like, even then, like all of the like stuff behind the scenes that as like a front of house guy, if you're contracted in or whatever, you only see like a short little window of it. But then like being on staff, you like all of this routing that you have to like figure out, and all of these like teams that you have to think through, and like just, there's a lot of things that like I had to think about that I didn't have to in like a smaller setting, but I was like, I'm willing to like risk it because this is something I like doing, and if I have to learn how to video direct or how to like program lights, like, okay, I'm not good at programming lights, but I'll tell you, like, I can probably try to figure it out. And like similar to what you were saying, like you just kind of thrown in, you have to figure out like, I don't know how to troubleshoot this, but you learn through it, you know? Like we had to lay carpet the other day, and I'm like, I'm not good at this. Like I'm cutting things, and I'm like, this is not good. I have to like redo the piece or whatever.
So funny.
So, but like you kind of learn it, and then I'm like, oh, this is like good experience. Like whenever I have like my own house, like, and I have to do something, like Brandon's always renovating his stuff. So I'm like, and you look like, I learned from him a lot. Like he's like the handyman. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, to see how somebody does this and be like, oh, like I can apply this to any like season of life of, oh, I'm renovating my deck. Oh, I'm renovating something in my bathroom, or like this thing bugs me in my house. How do I clean up these cables to make it look nice? You know? So
That's so funny. I would like, that's a very similar experience to what I had when I was there, where, you think, you know, I had come from a much smaller church in St. Louis. I was a full-time TD there, but it was a very, very, very different context. And when I jumped into the chapel, I was jumping in with a team that, you know, none of those guys are there now anymore. But when I jumped in, I was like, I'm a young kid. I was 22, 23 years old, something like that. And like was super excited to learn from all these other like experienced quote unquote production guys that were on staff. And then I got on staff and then everybody quit within the first like 4 months. Oh, dang. Yeah. And so then I was solo for a solid 6 months before I hired Brandon and he came on the team and stuff like that. And then the rest of the guys, that followed after that. But it made me, it taught me like, in the moment of doing a project, whether we were ripping out a booth and building a new one and doing like actual construction stuff like we're talking about, just like being able to manage a project and know, hey, there's gonna be issues that we run into when we tear this wall down, when we try to fish this cable through the ceiling, when we do whatever, you know, we were trying to do. And I took a lot of those things back into my home life and go, oh, when I'm doing a project like this at my house, what are the things that I should be aware of or think of? And I've told a handful of people this over the years, and like I used to think of like, let's say we're doing a project on a Tuesday, okay, and it was something that like set change, something like that had to be done by Sunday. As the week would go on and we would do those projects, and as things would get more difficult or we would run into large issues, like we used to like count down from days to like hours and going, hey, it's Saturday now and this isn't done. How many hours do I have to get this thing done before the first service on Saturday night or whatever that would look like, down to, okay, if I had to spend all night here, if I had to, and there was only, you know, a couple of times that happened in my time there, like, hey, we would have an additional 12 hours to make something happen. It made me really think about like, the way I project manage things and stuff like that has led into now all areas of my life and my career now and stuff like that, and how I focus on that. So that's, that's awesome, man. I think for you, as you have been there, you know, I would say you walked into a semi-established like audio culture, I think in some ways. Like I think that I had been a part of a little bit, that Jesse for sure had helped build with us on the team. What do you like as far as that culture of you stepping in from the audio side? What things do you feel like you had different that you didn't have at the other church? And then what things like did you feel like you were going to take from either other experiences in doing that into the current church context that you're at now? So like thinking of, hey, what things were great that you stepped into and what things were like, man, we got to fix those things as nice as, or, you know, whatever you want to say about it.
I think the biggest thing that I noted, like when I stepped into like the chapel's like infrastructure, the biggest thing that I noticed was like, just like the live stream mix. I was like, every week I'd listen to it. I'm like, I want to like help them because like it wasn't great. And it was just like, how do you approach somebody to be like, hey, let's work on this a little bit? Or like, even just like, you have to not be like, I think sometimes you have to just be very clear with what you want to say, but also like be gentle and nice and like kind and loving. But the crazy thing was being in a church that like we had pretty good audio at my old church, but then stepping into something where I'm like, I think there could be stuff that we can change. Like, well, sorry, I don't feel like I'm being clear. Hold on, let me think what I want to say specifically. Make sure you put that in.
Okay. That's great. That's great.
No, I think so. The big thing was like the live stream wasn't the best part about it. And even like just the like worship night mixes, I was like, oh, these aren't great, but I wanted to like help them. So that's why I knew like it wasn't the gear that they had that wasn't good. It was like, how do we train people to like cultivate a space where it sounds better and it looks better and it like the people are there. We just need to like train them on how to like do it. So that's how I knew like the Lord was drawing me, because I was like, it's not like for a tech person, you could go into a room and be like, oh, they have the best sounding this, they have the best lighting board, they have like all of this great stuff. But if they're not using it like correctly, or just even like subjectively what sounds good or what looks the best, I feel like there can just be some like training there to like just to be done of like, hey, like this stuff is good. Like how do we train our volunteers on how to use it well? So
that's a good segue. Like you now have stepped into a role where you're leading volunteer teams and you're the one who's doing the coaching and creating opportunities and doing training. Like what has that been like, and how have you kind of thought through exactly what you're just describing, the process and the approach to create a culture of feedback, of safety, of like creative dialogue to like talk through like where do we want to take this and how can we improve in a way that empowers volunteers, doesn't like frustrate them, but creates a space for them to learn and grow and also like continually learn.
Yeah, I think just being honest and like building a culture where like I've had to do a lot of like I've done a few nights where we come in and we have like all of our tech guys come in and we do like a virtual sound check and we just go through like this is what we want our drums to sound like, this is what we want our bass and vocals and all this stuff to sound like, and these are the tools on how to do it, and training people that way to say like this, like it's one thing to give someone a note on a Sunday morning, but like a lot of the times like you've got a sound guy who they woke up early, they got there and like they're helping, but how do we make them better? And I think just spending like really good time training people, and not like, I think Sunday mornings it could be a little stressful to like give somebody a note, and sometimes they can maybe they're not having the best morning. So just how do you give like space and give like if you have a night where you can train people, like do it, because then they're gonna like grow from that, and now they like know like different tools in like your Wave server that they can be like, oh, this guy was using this plugin, oh cool, like how do I take that away and use that on like my drum bus or whatever it is. So even just building a space where people can like grow that in that way, and like you have all of your tech guys there and you're like, hey, like what do you guys think about this sound? What do you think about using tracks, and like how do we use them in a mix? And so all that stuff is super key.
I love what you said about how you would bring the team together and actually talk like, hey, this, and show an example, play an example, right, is what we want our drums to sound like, vocals, overall mix, whatever. And I think in a lot of church contexts, whether it's around audio specifically or lighting or, electric guitar playing or whatever, you have people that are responsible for those areas that are kind of like frustrated because it's not better, or they have to give a lot of feedback. But when you sit down and you think about it, it's like, did you ever actually clearly lay out the target for the team? Hey, there's 30 ways you can mix drums. We're not saying that any of them are right or wrong, but in our context, for our location, our style, our church, what we're going for creatively, this is what we're all aiming for. And that way you have a benchmark. You have something to actually succeed, and like people can work towards. Like you were talking earlier about like looking at videos of how to do things and whatnot. It's like, that's all great, but how do you know what tips and tricks to implement if you don't know where you're aiming, So I think that's like the most baseline level of service we can do our volunteer teams, is providing the target that everyone's agreed to from a creative standpoint. Like this is our church's lighting approach, audio, worship, guest experience, whatever it is. As leaders, like that's part of what we do to help volunteers win. And like I think that's a great example.
And I have some great volunteer stories from the chapel specifically, and some great, people that served in so many different ways. And man, leading volunteers is hard. Do you ever feel like, and I ask this because I felt like this when I was your age, my first church, and I was, 22 years old, I struggled early on with feeling like, how can I coach and teach these people that are older than my parents, that are my grandparents' age sometimes, and like being the guy that is in charge of them, and felt very much like a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm like, I think I'm a little bit young for this role.
It's intimidating. It's
very intimidating. How how do you feel like you've walked through that, as at your age? And to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to have you on, because
absolutely.
there's so many different thoughts in that age of your early 20s in your seat. And there's all these different, studies of basically like your competency level and your age gap. And as those things, as you get older and as you get more experience, your confidence level can dip.
Yep. There's like a Tyler Kirksack or whatever. Yeah,
yes.
he did that. Yeah.
Yep. That example that he did is what made me actually think about it.
Yep.
And you're at an interesting age where like you're doing all of those things. You're really good at what you do. Like
Thanks.
You're great. There's a reason why you won all these things against guys that were mixing for double the amount of time that you've been alive in some ways. A 40-year-old that's like, doing great things and done huge shows that you're still like, I don't know, man, I'm just walking out.
I just thought it sounded good. Like,
that's why I love your like attitude. Like even like, when you walked in at the mixed comp in Naperville a couple weeks ago, like you're like, oh, okay, what console is this again?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, man, it's all right. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, just let me know when when to get started. I'm like, I love that attitude.
Thanks.
And so like, how do you feel like your age has affected your ability to lead in some of those, contexts with volunteers?
It definitely can be intimidating. And that's like the big thing that I'm trying to work on is like giving notes to people and like not like just even trying to figure out what notes to give them, how to give, like even it's just ministry of figuring out like how to be gentle to people that are serving the Lord and like how to serve the Lord with excellence and just being honoring to like volunteers because they are taking a big like time. They're taking a lot of time out of their day to facilitate something that the Lord is going to do at, every church in the US and the world basically. And being intentional and just like spending time with people and like getting coffee with volunteers and just like, I think there is a relational like equity piece that if you don't have with somebody, you're gonna like have insecurities of like, oh, I don't want to approach them because like they don't really know me and they don't know my heart posture. But if you get like have lunch with them and then they see like who you really are just over like a simple meal or a simple coffee, then they're like, oh, like I can trust this person. I know when they're giving me notes, it's not out of like bad intent, but they want to help grow me. Yep. And it's weird for like someone who's 23, like if I'm talking to someone who's 40 or 50, it's like, hey bro, you're doing a great job, but like, can we work on this a little bit? And it's a learning curve and working with people and like.
And that's where like we were saying a minute ago, we're having the shared target makes those conversations so much easier.
Yep.
Because instead of being like, hey, as the person who maybe feels young and inexperienced to be able to have that input, right? It's not just, I think you did this wrong. It's, hey, as a group, we're aiming towards this thing. So like next time, let's try to do this thing.
Right.
And then framing it in the positive, not, hey, I didn't like when you did this.
Sure.
It's, hey, next service, can you frame it this way? Or can we do this because it's going to help the moment like this?
Yeah.
And it's funny how just semantics and the way you phrase things totally change.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
vibe.
The tone and everything. Yeah.
If you keep the feedback forward looking and not backward looking, people are just so much more receptive. It's not like, hey, you messed up last service.
Yeah.
It's, hey, next time let's try this.
Yep.
It just totally changes the tenor of the conversation.
That's good.
My first weekend on staff at the chapel, I was shadowing the other TD at that campus at the time. And we got through the first service, and there was a volunteer there mixing. And like, I was very aware of, hey, I need to build relational equity and try to do what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And I remember after the first service, it was like, hey, that was so great. Like, we should, maybe next service, let's take a look at this. I don't know what it was, a vocal channel.
Sure.
And, try to do this thing. And I'm telling you, dude, this guy turns around to me and he's like, I never want you to give me another piece of feedback again in the middle of service or like, in between services again. It's not helpful for me. And I was like, okay, sounds good, man. And I'm telling you, it took years for me to get some sort of relational equity with that guy to get to a point where like he would be like, oh, maybe Kaleb does have some like insight of what we could do better or not.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, how the heck am I supposed to have a conversation with this guy who could be my dad's age?
Right.
And like try to give him feedback for a guy that's been doing this much longer than I've been doing it. And it's so funny. And then the following week I was at the Grays Lake campus and, you're standing in front of house, the same place that it's been for as long as I can remember. And there was a volunteer who I don't think he serves there anymore, but he had a roll of blue painter's tape, like 2-inch painter's tape.
Okay.
And the row right behind front of house that's like on the edge there. He was taping off like 10 seats with a big old X in it. And I was like, hey man, what you doing? He's like, man, there's this lady that comes at the second service and she sings so loud and so terrible, I can't have her sitting behind me anymore while I'm mixing. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I think I know exactly who that was.
Yeah, great dude. And
oh my gosh, that's funny.
I love that guy. I still connect with him every once in a while. He's at a different church now in Lake Zurich. And like
a legit challenge.
And a legit challenge.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I don't know if I would go on about it that way, but okay, let's see what we could do. Maybe let's take the painter's tape off because it looks terrible. And maybe I will sit there instead of that person. And I promise you, I will not sing loud. And so it was just like, volunteers are so funny.
Yep.
And it's like the imposter syndrome that I had of trying to be able to coach and like show up like, hey, I should be in this role. I'm a salaried employee now that has some experience, not nearly as much as many other people in the world, but like it's really, really hard to step into that like seat and try to coach people who are older than you while you feel like you're still trying to figure out how to do that for yourself, in your role in general and stuff like that. So that's super interesting.
Yep.
As you've been there now a couple of years, what are the things that you feel like you are trying to grow in for yourself right now in your seat? Because so many church TD people who are your age now, like there was always, at least for me, there was always aspirations of doing something bigger and better. There's always grass is greener when you're young and thinking that everything else in the world is going to be so much better, whether it's like, I don't know, touring or doing something like that. And then trying to hone, hey, what are the things that like, I feel like God is calling me into right now in this seat in ministry, and how do I grow in those things? Like, where do you feel like you are, or your focus area is right now as you're like trying to grow? Because unfortunately, anytime anybody for the most part steps into a role at a church, like my first church, I thought that I was just going to be like the dude mixing every week. And I realized that there is 39 and a half hours of the rest of the week that I have to actually do other things rather than the 25 minutes I'm actually mixing on a Sunday morning.
Right. Yeah.
And figuring out where my priorities are and the things that I want to, grow in right now. So I would say like, what is that for you right now in the areas that you guys, maybe it's just for you or as the team that you're like working through and growing on both, personally or technically as you're stepping in the next season?
I think the biggest thing is just the relational piece. Like we kind of hit on it already, but like the intentionality with like volunteers, like we get so caught up during the week of like doing projects and all this other stuff.
Laying carpet,
video projects,
making coffee.
Spend 5 hours making coffee. But just, like the thing that even like while we're talking, I'm just like, oh man, I need to get better at like just being intentional with like getting together with like our high capacity volunteers or even like new people and just like seeing where they're at. Because like, it's one thing to ask them to do something on a Sunday, but like I want to make sure that like they're cared for throughout the week. Because like if I'm doing front of house, like it's going to be hard for me to like that Sunday morning to talk to everybody and just like gauge how people are doing and like, hey, are you like, we're putting you on every other week or every once a month. Like, is that good for you? Do you want to do more of that? Like just because when you send out a PCO request, like you don't know if like somebody's like accepting it because they're like, I have a hard time saying no. Like I want people to know that like we care for them well. So just even creating more time out of the week. And I've talked a lot with like my boss of like, hey, I want to make sure like this week I'm setting time aside so I can meet with this person and just see how they're doing and see like, where can we help guide them and like where maybe is there a better spot for them? Is there a different like spot that they can be in the church, not even in tech, but just like in general, like where is there a better spot that they can serve?
The parking lot.
Parking lot. Can they, bring people?
Help people park.
Yeah.
But I think too, like that's really hard to do, and setting aside margin in the middle of your week to make sure that you're meeting with volunteers. I know like everybody who's ever been on this podcast, they would all say that is accurate, and we need to be able to do that. The thing that I found the hardest, and I'm sure that it's still difficult for you guys there, is like you have Saturday services and you have Sunday services.
We don't have any Saturday.
Oh, you don't? No.
Nope. They've been talking about it.
Oh,
so I know.
I hope for your sake you don't. When I was there, we had Saturday services. Our call time was 12, 1 o'clock, something like that, with a 5 p.m. service. Sunday morning services and stuff like that. And so my work week, like we were off on Mondays and Fridays, and we had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays to do all of the work in the middle of the week. Tuesdays was meeting days. Wednesday was playing catch up for the meetings or whatever, things that came out of those things, and prep for Sunday. And then that last half of the day on Wednesday and Thursday was like fix anything that broke. And make sure that it's good to go by Thursday night at 5 o'clock. And we didn't have midweek rehearsals and stuff like that. So our amount of time in the middle of the week was so limited and felt so packed, full of all of these other things, that like the margin for building that relational equity, both for good and bad, whether it was chosen on our own or not, ended up being less than what I think it should have been, at least for me.
Or were you just doing virtual sound check all
Or maybe
weekend?
just doing virtual sound check all day, which was also great. But I just wondered, like for you, like, do you still feel that tension of the margin of doing both those things? And like, I feel like every time I talk with one of you guys, like there's another campus that has popped up somewhere in somewhere in Chicagoland or Wisconsin.
There's like there is always stuff to do, and there's always like things on the list that I'm like, okay, I could do that, and then I get so caught up in like doing something that I'm forgetting like, oh, I probably should like reach out to some people, because like I don't want people to feel like they're coming just for doing a thing and they're not a part of a ministry. But that's hard. Like in tech, it's hard because like if I'm focused on doing this one thing, I might not have the margin that morning or even that week because like something at one of our other campuses is down and we have to spend like the whole week fixing it. Like that just happened at our Mundelein campus. Like there was a power surge and like classic Mundelein, bunch of dead gear. In fact, I think there was something that happened similar to when you were there.
That campus had so many different issues, and we would have more issues with our ISP because it was an old building, and so like I can't remember if it was Xfinity who brought in service for all the internet there. And I can't remember if it was AT&T or something like that. We were trying to get fiber installed, and like the quote for it, they were like, well, we have to tear up the street to get it across the street.
Oh, geez.
And, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to do that. And then I think it was like, there was some cell tower or something like that. Is that cell tower still there at the Mundelein campus?
I don't know.
Anyways, there was a cellular company who was like, hey, we want to put a cell tower here. We'll pay you guys, and we'll pay to put, rip up the street and do this. And we're like, yes, that sounds great.
There you go.
But always constant power surges, and the amount of times for that campus specifically that I had to call the campus pastor and be like, hey man, you got to teach live and you have 5 minutes to prep because there's no other option and we can't get internet back up, or the backup didn't work, whatever that was. But it was always the troubled child of issues just with their building in general and stuff like that.
Really. There's always stuff to do though. But like that's the margin you have to kind of weigh is like, both are super important, but like caring for people, like that's what the heart of Jesus is, So like, sure, you can like serve and do the thing, but I just want people to know like there's a greater purpose in this. And like, like as we're talking, I'm just thinking like, okay, how can I be better at this? Because like, this is a learning curve. Like for me, like the first year of ministry was hard because I was figuring out how to do like church as a multi-site campus and broadcast flips, and like the gear at both campuses is the same, and it's like, but it's different culture at both. And it's like volunteers at one are like super great at pressing accept on time, and like at one campus they're not. And it's like, like talking with people like, who are older than you, and being like, hey, there's an honor and excellence level of like showing up on time and being like really clear with like, hey, we need to know at least by like Thursday or Friday if you can or can't. And like, if you can't, just press decline so that we know like, all right, we're going to find someone else to do it. And there's no problem in saying you can't do something, people have busy lives, and you have to make room for what you and your family, like you and your family comes before the serving commitment, you know? So
it was the first place that I ever had a volunteer get really mad at me because I didn't ask them. Like, I think it was like we had done a stage flip or set design change or something like that, you know, in the middle of the week. And they came in on Saturday for service and they were like, oh my gosh, when did you guys do this? And we're like, oh, this week. You know, it was like, I remember it being a terrible week and we were there late every single night that week trying to make it all work. And she was like, Kaleb, why didn't you call and ask for help? And I was like, well, I felt like we ask a lot of you guys already and we didn't want to like overburden or ask, you know, for more. And she's like, I will tell you no if I can't, but I won't know to say no if you don't ask.
Right.
So don't ever do that again. And she was pissed. Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Well, and yeah, it just goes back down to like, I was thinking about it in the context of myself and going, if I was asked right now, because of this is my job every week and I was volunteering at some, I don't know, shelter or something like that for help, I would say no. So why would I go and ask? And that was me selfishly making that call for those volunteers and not even putting the ask out because it felt like more work for me to ask. But
in a different, like a month later when you were in the middle of that, if a organization said, hey, Kaleb, you mix audio, would you just come over and mix for us one night just to help us out for this little event?
Yeah.
You probably would be like, oh, sure.
Correct.
Yeah, I can help out with that.
Yeah. And so it put context in that for me of going, what is a volunteer? What is a volunteer designed to do in a church? What does God call us to be when we're serving in the local church? And it was selfish of me in that moment to not ask because it was, you know, whatever's going on in my life. I was like, well, I wouldn't want to say
I want to bring someone else into this
like,
right now.
and I want to like save those times where I need the big ask. For a time that I really need it. It's like, and I don't think that's right. Well, it makes me think of
what you said earlier about like helping people feel like they're plugged into something bigger. Like there's the Sunday thing that you do week in, week out, but like when there are larger things during the week or seasons or whatever, to say, hey, volunteer pool, we're doing this thing. If you want to help out, we're going to be here from 6 to 9. We're going to order pizza and we're just all going to pitch in together.
Yeah,
like,
that's good.
Even if 10 people show up, they get to work shoulder to shoulder. They get to have some fun together. They get to meet other people and interact outside of just like the Sunday schedule.
Yep. And
there's literally nothing there's no downside to that.
Right. Yeah.
If most people say they can't make it that week, you're no worse off than if you didn't ask.
Yeah,
and you just didn't buy as many pizzas.
Correct.
Like, that's it.
And the reality is like you build relational equity in those times and not.
And a lot of people love that. Good. Like they love seeing the behind the scenes of whatever was being done or seeing how things are set up or whatever. And so like shooting that message out takes 5 seconds.
Right.
And the upside can be huge.
Yep. And I just think of so many times in my career that like we didn't ask for that and it only hurt us. It only hurt us because our time was more. We were not home for our families as much or whatever that looked like. And I will never forget that conversation with April Cooksey and her yelling at me in the video booth for not asking and going, oh, I'd never thought of that, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I love your tenacity and enthusiasm when you know, have walked into any of these events. And this is when I've, you know, really gotten to meet you and interact with you. And it goes back to, in so many different of these conversations, like somebody took a chance on you and said, hey man, would you be willing to help? Just like they asked me, just like they asked you, just like they've asked so many different people that have sat across from us at this table.
Right.
That have then led to a fruitful and you know, full-time ministry career in doing that in the local church and serving the local church in a way that, you know, God has called you into. And I just think it's fantastic. And we need more guys like you that are open-handed and have a great attitude and are like, yeah, man, I'm just here. I just want to like come and hang and show up. And
and the other thing that I've just picked up over so much of what we've been talking about is like a constant interest to learn. Like, hey, I want to learn more. I want to research what other people are doing. I want to learn about things outside of my lane, like exposure to these other things, and to view those opportunities not as distractions or frustrations or like a drag that you have to do, but like an excitement to experience more things, grow, and broaden the skill set that you have and the ways that you can contribute. Yeah, like that's just such an important characteristic to cultivate over the long term. Like, so that when you're 43, you still have that same drive and energy and interest in the things that are going on around you and the people that you're serving alongside as you do now. I think there are people that are listening that are more on that side of the spectrum than where you are. And like just that reminder of, are you a learner? Are you hungry? Mm-hmm. Are you interested in other perspectives than the one that you've kind of gotten into and the rut that you've been in that maybe has worked really well, but like we all have to remember that there's always more than one way to do something. Mm-hmm. There's always people with other perspectives that we could actually really benefit from.
Yeah. That's the thing. It takes time. Like it took time for me to like get where I'm at now. And then it's like, you know, if I want to invest that in other people, like that's going to take a lot of time, but I have to be okay and patient in that, knowing like, hey, let's just see if this person is even willing to do it. And if they like are committed, like, hey, great, let's throw them in and let's just see where they go. Mm-hmm. And just taking a risk, honestly. Yeah. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Dude, well, I'm thankful you came out and, you know, was able to sit down at the table with us and have this conversation. And I'm stoked for you and your seat there and where God's going to take you. And you're a fantastic engineer.
Thanks,
and
man.
You had a great snare a couple weeks ago. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, yep, this is the one, man. This sounds like my kind of snare, that big fat snare drum that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And it was great. And so I'm stoked for you. And I hope that, as you continue there, you're able to just continue to grow in yourself and coach and bring other people alongside with you as they did, you know, with you years ago, and stepping into that. And then we'll, you know, maybe have this conversation again in 20 years and see how things are going. Right. But dude, thanks for coming out and having this convo. And if anybody ever wanted to reach out to you and connect or are in the Lake County area or anything like that, where would they find you? If you have social or whatever.
Just Jaden Seno. That's my Instagram account. Follow me.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. You post mixing content or what's your jam?
I don't. I have like 2 posts and they're both like, one of them's like a Christmas market thing that a bunch of friends went to. And the other one is when I went to Bethel, which was an awesome experience.
Right. Out in Redding?
Out in Redding. Dude,
so funny.
It's crazy.
I was at Experience Conference yesterday, and I was sitting in like this lobby area. Like I had a call with somebody, and I was like on my computer, and I'm like watching this person walk by. I'm like, man, why does that person look so familiar? And it was Jen Johnson.
Dude, no way.
Walking through because they were doing a worship set that night, and I was like, oh, that's Jen Johnson. So yeah, Bethel, man.
Dude, it was, I mean, in terms of like audio perspective, dude, it's insane. They run their mixes at like 88 or 89 dB, and it sounds like 100. Yeah. And like, I mean, it sounds like you're in a studio with 1,000 people. Like it's like that crazy. Like for me, sometimes I can like struggle in worship, like when I'm not doing something, because I'm like, this is weird. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know if I should sing. I don't like know what to do. But like that experience there was like crazy of like, you literally hear the crowd and the band at the same volume. That's awesome. Like, it just blew me away. I was like, the sound was so amazing. I'd have to think about it. Yep. And then I even got to like go in the tech booth. Like, I don't even know how, well, actually I do know how. I was talking to a camera op at Bethel when we went there. It was back in November for their conference. Okay. And I was like, yo, I was texting, or I was like DMing one of their front of house guys, David Payton. Okay. And like trying to figure out, hey, I want to like get a tour of like the space, but in that, I like got to go in the tech booth and meet Jonah Thompson, who's one of like the live engineers at Bethel, and like he does all of like their touring gigs and stuff. So I like got to just like watch what he did, and I was like, this is crazy. Yeah, man. And like I took pictures of all of his like wave stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna mess around with stuff, but like even in that, I'm like, I know like, okay, it's not gonna sound the same in my room, but like I want to like impart something from him. Of like, this is crazy. Like I get to be in this booth. Like, it's insane. Yeah, it is a really cool
sitting
experience.
Next to somebody while they're working and you watching is the best way that I ever learned. And sitting next to some incredible engineers and watching them work and go, oh my gosh, I never thought of doing that, or just everything that they do has always been my favorite thing to do. And so, and it takes courage to like DM and ask, because it feels awkward.
Right. Yeah.
It totally does. But man, the people who are hungry like that, like, and they go the farthest.
It goes back to what you were saying about the volunteer that you said her no for her. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing in that context. Like, I have a friend who when, who was it? Oh, it was Metallica. When Metallica was at Soldier Field last summer, we had the opportunity to do like a on the field tour and see the whole Meyer behind the scenes thing, whatever. Talk to the front of house guy for Metallica, and one of my friends just started asking him some questions, and it led to, hey, you can sit next to me at front of house for the show in Soldier Field tonight and watch me mix.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He got to do that.
Yeah.
And it just started, he just started asking questions and wasn't afraid to say, hey, are you willing to share? And the guy was like, of course, come with me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's how I met Hole. It was at a worship night at Journey Church in Kenosha. And I was like, I just want to go up and meet the sound guy. So I went up there and just talked with him. And then I got his contact, and then I found out he was close with the chapel.
That show was definitely not mixed at 80 dB.
Oh, that was like 100 and something. No, it was really loud.
Looking at you, Steven.
Oh my gosh.
We're looking at you.
Steven Hole.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been cool.
Super good.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, for those of you all listening, we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks.